This is a live picture from the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California, where technicians take a signal that is 20 billion times weaker than the power level of a digital watch and turn it into cosmic history. And this is what the Voyager 2 spacecraft is seeing almost 3 billion miles away, an accomplishment that has impressed even the most ardent NASA scientists. The views of Neptune and its bizarre moon Triton have been called astounding. Good morning. I'm Lou Waters reporting live from Pasadena, where the work has continued throughout the night. Joining me as astronomer and member of the imaging team, Carl Sagan. That last farewell picture, that pink crescent of Triton, this last picture show should get an Academy Award.
I agree. I think it's not just great science. There's some fantastic art here, and that's part of the reason for its appeal. We are looking at the frontier of the solar system, the last planet, because Pluto's inside Neptune. And the pictures that we have seen of Neptune, of its big moon Triton, of the ring arcs are just astounding. It couldn't be better. The level of excitement is the highest I've ever seen here.
And we will see a lot of it in this next hour. It's an incredible story. And in this hour, we will spin the tale of Voyager 2. Not since 1969 and man's first footsteps on the moon has space captured the nation's imagination to this degree. Voyager's 12-year mission has rewritten the textbooks. Carl Sagan is here. It's been an astounding past 24 hours. Why don't you take us through just a bit of it?
Well, we've been in observatory phase for months, seeing Neptune as a slowly growing from a dot to something filling the television screen and more. Neptune itself, we can take a look at some of the pictures from Neptune, is a beautiful, austere blue world. All the features you see here are in very rapid motion. We are looking at a world of clouds and gas. The surface, if any, is far below. And that dark feature you see at lower left, we call by a spiffy scientific word, it's called a great dark spot. And and the next picture will show a close-up of it. It seems to be deep. You can see the higher altitude white cirrus clouds. They're made of methane. We have no idea what's deep down there. This is a world whose the motions in it, the general circulation of its atmosphere, are important for many reasons, one of which is people trying to understand the Earth's atmosphere, climate, circulation, have a new world to test the theories on.
Is this great dark spot comparable to the great red spot on Jupiter?
It's roughly the same latitude. It has somewhat the same behavior. The great red spot on Jupiter is high. The great dark spot is low. There's a lot of things we have to figure out about that.
How about the persistence of these storms?
The great red spot of Jupiter has been seen since the 17th century. So that's a storm that's been around for hundreds of years. And the great dark spot probably is in that same category, but we don't yet know.
Any surprises for you here when you see these pictures, or was it what you expected? Which camp are you in there?
Lou, the experience of the entire 12-year mission of Voyager 1 and 2 is that we never are smart enough to predict what we're going to see. Everything is, nature is more subtle than we are. Maybe we can take a look at Triton. This moon, as you can see, has remarkable color. It's a methane ice world. The next picture shows a set of details on the surface, a wonderful flooded basin, and the next picture shows another view of topography that is different from anywhere in the solar system that we have yet to understand.
Why the intense interest in the geological history of Triton?
Well, for one thing, we've seen about 50 worlds in the solar system. This one is different from any we've seen. It's based on a different kind of physics. It's a methane ice world. And it will enhance our understanding of the entire panoply of moons in the outer solar system. Well, there is a sense of subdued excitement as a set of new pictures is coming in. These are the highest resolution, finest detailed pictures of Triton, but it's interspersed with other pictures of lower resolution. Here's Larry Soderblom, the deputy team leader. Hi, Larry. What do you see? Anything special?
Well, we're just about to see the next high resolution view. The area we're looking at is in the vicinity of those large frozen caldera lake-like things.
Great. One of the big disputes on Triton these days is how much atmosphere is there. We should resolve this one shortly. If there's a lot of nitrogen in the atmosphere ought to be pretty dense. If it's mainly methane, it ought to be pretty diffuse. In any case, it's a very thin atmosphere by terrestrial standards. The geology has been spectacularly interesting, although the pictures that are up right now are not that apparently interesting. As I say, the good ones are interspersed with the duller ones.
Well,
Larry?
depends on what to each his own. These are wide-angle color images.
Yes.
And so that's the color information which will be added to the high-resolution data.
Eventually, these will be processed, as we saw with Mr. Manbury before, into very interesting color pictures, but now they are each in a single color, have not yet been composited into color. Yes?
Along the way, when we have problems with radio frequencies and you had to work with just this small amount of power, did you not go through some process where the amount of images coming back here was reduced somewhat or changed somewhat? Did that process give you less than what you would have desired as far as images back here?
Lou, one remarkable part of this mission is that the spacecraft were designed only to work out to Jupiter and Saturn. Uranus and Neptune are kind of bonus. Because they're so far from the sun, it's comparatively very dark out there. So you have to have long time exposures, but then that blurs the image. And the spacecraft engineers have perfectly compensated for that problem by moving the cameras at just the right speed to compensate for the motion of the spacecraft. So in fact, on some levels, the spacecraft is working better at Neptune and Uranus than it did at Jupiter and Saturn.
Watching the Earth over its entire 4.5 billion year history. An occasional meteor might be seen falling onto the Earth, but almost nothing would ever be seen leaving it. Then, in 1957, something began to change. An object rose off the surface to orbit the Earth. Then another, and another. Soon the orbits of these tiny machines were enveloping the Earth like a ball of yarn. Other little machines began to break free of the Earth's gravity. Some traveled to the hidden far side of the moon. Spacecraft with people in them touched down on the moon and returned. Now the inner solar system was ours to explore. Machines were dispatched to fly by and orbit the neighboring planets. A flotilla of small ships was sent out to intercept a comet. Others were launched on epic voyages to the outer solar system and beyond. Something fundamental has changed for us. We have found a way to other worlds for our machines and ourselves. One of our spacecraft has just completed the preliminary reconnaissance of the solar system in which we live. Her name is Voyager, and this is her story.